Welcome into another episode of the Critics Collective. I'm Ron, and today we're talking Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy. Now, if that sounds like a little bit of deja vu, we did John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise, which was a documentary, 6 episodes. We reviewed that one, check that out. Now, that was in 2021, so 4 years later, Peacock gives us a mini series pulling the actual events and then doing some behind the scenes writer magic. And they gave us an 8 episode season for what I believe respectfully is to go really up against, unless it's a one-off thing. If it's a one-off thing, boo. If they're going to give you more of this, again, I put my executive hat on for so many times, then this is a great chess move against Netflix monsters. If you haven't checked out Netflix monsters, we've done some reviews on some of them. You have the Jeffrey Dahmer, I believe, was the first one. The Menendez brothers from Florida was the second one. And then I for sure reviewed the third one, which should have been the story on, I can't remember his name right now, but it's how we have the monster, Leatherface, and Jason, and Michael Myers. And you have kind of what that movie became, or what that serial killer did with pop culture. And it was Hitchcock, Albert Hitchcock, or whatever his name is, Birds. He's in that. Anyways, I'm gonna give you my highs and lows. Then I'm gonna rate it from 0 to 5, and you let me know what you think in the comments. Okay. Now, with that being said, a little trigger warning or a lot of trigger warning. This is about a murderer, a sick individual, a serial killer. It's not a video game, but he set records for body counts and how he did it. He was studied by the FBI and so many people over the world so they can understand, much like so many other people, to understand why somebody would do something like this and to do it and get away with it as long as he did. Oh man, let's get into it. This was yeah, let's get into it. So the storyline for this, just in case, just to clean it up, Chicago area constructor contractor John Wayne Gacy leads a double life as a serial killer while detectives piece together clues that can lead to a shocking discovery. Hit the subscribe button, like, follow, and comment for more. Here at the Critics Collective, we would love to have you join our collective family. Now, for this, the lows, I didn't like that it ended. I didn't like that it ended. That was, and again, I mean it with all due respect to the victims and the people's lives that have been altered because of these real events. I mean the what we're watching respectfully, as much as I can say that. Um, it was tough that it ended because you wanted more. You felt like one of the characters, and they talked about it kind of in the docuseries as well. One of the officers is like, "Are there more bodies out there?" And you're kind of left with that longing of, is this wrapped up? Is this the end? Like we hear it so many times, not just in true crime, but you hear it in other things, like people take secrets to their grave. Um, and so you have things like that. The realization of you're in today's time, in today's society, because when it ends, that same detective who's kind of been that token, that piece of reality for the viewer, you're looking at that same house and you're looking at the transformation of that house in the world we live in right now from that time period to now. And I thought that was an interesting take. Um, that I think that would probably really be it. I think at first when I watched it and then when I watched the documentary, I was like, well, why didn't they put this in? And they should have put this in. But then you overload it too much and it doesn't become a drama. It just becomes a reenactment, I think. And you don't want to do that. Now, the good things I will say about it, the set design for what they did, damn, they built that fucking set. They built that scene. They built so many scenes and it felt real, right? I can't really put words more to it. Felt fucking real. What I mean by that is, how do I say it? You watch movies where they're like based on a true event, and you watch it, and the event feels real because they told you it was real. But the set is the set. Unless you've seen the set somewhere, like a famous building or a famous car that's involved in it, you're like, okay, the set is the set. For some reason, this house and how they walked about this house and how they tore the baseboards up and tore the wall up. It felt authentic. The cars felt authentic, not just for the time period. It's again, it's hard to place that. Mind you, I'm not from this era. I'm an 80s baby. So I didn't grow up knowing this story or hear anything about this. And when I went and watched the docuseries, I was like, wow, they literally took real scenes and put it together. And I had no clue. I watched timepiece stuff where you're like, hey, this is from the 70s. And you're like, all right, it's from the 70s. Look at those cars. It's clearly from the 70s, whatever. This just felt like it. And it was such a bravo job for their team to be able to do that. I can imagine someone who's watched the documentary or know the story and automatically fall into that universe. So it was really interesting to see that. The guy who played um, the whole cast did a phenomenal job. The whole cast. You didn't. There was the one guy who was the prosecutor. He played in This Is Us. I can't remember, but he was one of the he was the husband of the one of the daughters. He does such a great job. Once you get through the initial shock of, oh my God, that's it. You don't think about it anymore. He's this guy and he's acting in a different, he's just this guy. When you see the guy who plays John Wayne Gacy, my goodness, that's fucking John Wayne Gacy better than John Wayne Gacy. When you go back and you watch the documentary, it just doesn't hit the same. You're like, oh, I know you're the real one, but that other guy was fucking sinister. Um, there was something about his role, his acting, where he looked like that lovable, friendly neighborhood blue collar worker that everybody knew him for. But then you saw the switch, multiple switches with his look and his personality. And I sat there so many times watching this series, 8 episodes, 45 minutes, give or take each, just with this look. My wife would walk into the office and she's like, what's wrong with you with the look on your face? I'm like, this shit was real. This person did this. Like, this only captures so much of what happened. And there was a scene, man, there's so many scenes. There was a scene where John is preparing to essay one of the boys. And he just switches. They don't switch it with music. They don't switch it with a script. They switch it by simply his facial reaction. Not a drastic, not a muscle neck. Like, I don't know what kind of acting. I don't know if it's method acting, whatever, but you can see, you're like, wait a minute, the light's on in here. Kid, run, get out of here, do whatever you got to do. And John's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that. And I don't know what I was thinking. And whether this is true or not, I mean, we'll never know. But the boy is like, oh, well, you kind of scared me there, Mr. Gracie. I'm gonna get out of here. The kid's putting his jacket on. I'm like, yo, fuck your jacket. My God, get the fuck out of the house, my guy. And he just put on the jacket. He's like, I'm gonna take this application and I'm gonna bring it back to you tomorrow. Get the fuck out of the house. Like, I'm telling the television of something that's already predetermined. Get the fuck out of the house, kid. Run. Fuck that application. Get your family. Get in the car. Like, and a part of me is like, maybe that's shock. Well, maybe that's shock. Maybe if these are young boys, these are kids. You're like, maybe that's the shock of it all. That your response is to put on your jacket slowly, to clean up, and I'm like, whether you accidentally fell on this and wrote this in such a way, or this was thought out methodically, wow. Because then John comes back into the camera and the light in his eyes is gone. How do you do that as an actor? We do see that in certain movies, don't get me wrong. But this is one of those, this is just 100% should be talked about, nominated for awards or whatever, because I just felt how sinister that this person was. Mind you, they didn't show you gore. You know, they didn't go out there and gore you with there's no blood all over the wall. Like, there's scenes where there's blood, don't get me wrong, but it's enough to tell the story. You pair that with Monster from Netflix, season 3, that became America Horror Story when it should have never been that. It should have been this. This is the fucking recipe. If you're a fan of Mindhunters, and I know it was a slow burn, but such a good slow burn, you'll like this. It's a faster pace than Mindhunters. But Peacock, listen to me, motherfuckers. You could probably go through and do the Dahmer, maybe not the Dahmer one, because that one got pop culture, and I can see how that could switch. But you can go and pull from some of these stories, and if you can duplicate this, you got something on your hands every season. I'm just saying, my goodness. Like I said, the only thing I didn't like about it was that it was the world that they had brought us in. You wanted more. You wanted closure for the family. There was let's say you've never seen it before, and I'm not gonna spoil. I don't want to spoil too much, even though it's based off a true story. There's something that happens towards the end with the families and the city officials. And when it happens, you're like, holy shit. Like, you feel it, and they don't have to tell you what's happening. You just you connect to the emotion they wanted you to. And again, watching it with the live, or not the live, but the actual documentary, um, knowing that that's not necessarily how it happened, but had they done it, it wouldn't have been as impactful. So that's what I mean what I said earlier, where I said, man, make it word for word, make it everything what it was. It would have taken away from some of the moments that you added that drama to it. And I understand that. So let's go ahead and rate it. We rate here from a 0 to a 5, 5 being excellent, 0 all the way down to horror. In between, you got good, average, below, and poor quality. We're talking Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy. It's a mini series, came out this year, 2025, on Peacock. It's about a little under 8 hours. It's 45 minutes each episode, give or take. It's 8 episodes. Wow. The acting, I mentioned, the only thing I didn't like about it, that it ended. The acting was great. The set design was great. The music was great. The mood and the tension they created. The lead character, who's the police officer who kind of who really puts this together. Wow. When you think about the murders, right? Regardless if you go to the documentary or you go with the miniseries, the only reason, and there's such a bigger story here, and I'm talking for 13 minutes, but that's because I really enjoyed this. The other story that they're not saying, but they're saying if you're listening, the boys were deemed as throwaway because they were possibly gay. The victims who came away from that house surviving and going to the police saying this is what happened, even giving the address and the name, were disregarded by law enforcement because the boys were gay. That is such a impactful story that's right there at the fucking line of this story, just in reality. To watch someone go and victimize people who are looking to people who are supposed to protect them as they're not important. They're throwaways. The only reason, that's just my opinion, the only reason why John Wayne Gacy is arrested and tried, the only reason why it happens, he takes the wrong boy. He takes a boy from a middle class. He takes a boy that was not considered a throwaway. And police happen to ask questions. And when they ask the questions, the rest of the unraveled. That's the thing about this. Wow. And like I said before, there's another tone underneath it when you watch it. But I felt like there was 3 layers in there. I felt like they gave you those 3 layers. They didn't make it feel political. They weren't trying to tell you what the story should be. They were giving you the facts with a little bit of sauce, a little bit of dressing. And at the end, you sit back and you say, wow, what is this? I 100% recommend this. The Dad Panther Ron. I recommend watch this. This is a 5. This is a 5. I enjoyed it. I thought it was masterful. It was a master class in drama. if I could, right now thinking if I could turn up the notch on it, it would be not the horror element, but a little bit in that area, but respectfully to the victims and the fact that it's a true story. I don't want to do that, but if I, man, you could have been anywhere in the world and you chose to be here. Until next time.